Recording improvements.
Good evening. Call this meeting to order. The vice chair is standing in for the chair tonight. Taking a roll call, we have 4 members and alternates sitting, so everybody will be here tonight. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Chris, second.
All in favor?
Chris, aye.
Aye.
Doug, aye. Unanimous. Minutes have passed from last meeting. Do we have any communications?
Just one. The pond at 289 New London Turnpike will be treated on the 9th.
So going on to old business, IWWCC number 24-0945 Salem Turnpike. An application for maintenance activities, which includes removal, disposal, and regrading of vegetated areas in Ford Brook.
We have the applicant here to speak tonight, and he has someone online as well. Technical question.
So would you state your name for the record?
My name is Daryl Birchman, and I run for my uncle Harry Lizer, Harry Lizer Revocable Trust, Lizer Realty.
And would you like to give us a brief overview
Sure.
of the application?
Excellent. Yep. So I'm not too sure if you're all familiar with the property, but it's a Staples shopping center. I've been running my uncle's company now for 15 years, and one of the obstacles I faced over the last 15 years, and it's been 5 times now, is the parking lot flooding. I don't know if you guys know that, but this is what I've been dealing with. The Red Cross parks their vans along the stream for the sake of they come in and out at crazy hours, and they don't want to leave vans if someone doesn't come in the middle of the parking lot just because there's prohibitions and other tenants' leases. And 5 times now their vans have been flooded out. So I worked with the city, and they were very gracious, and they gave me emergency access on Old Salem Turnpike, but it's chained off, and that's fine. But the bigger issue is, why is it flooding? And it's flooding, as you can see, because the stream is completely choked out. When I spoke to my uncle about it, he said he's been remiss and he's never applied or done any kind of maintenance on the stream. So I can't tell you how many years worth of growth and erosion has built up, and the sediment now has literally choked out. If you look at these photos and you look at the site plan, I mean, it should be anywhere from 15 to 20 feet across. And at some points you have maybe a foot. And then you probably have anywhere from 8 inches to 12 inches of sediment, and then you have the growth. So what happens is, because the water can't make its way to the culverts, it's not draining, and then it goes across my parking lot, floods the vehicles, and actually gets as far as the KFC building. I hired a company. I just don't know if you guys are familiar with them. It is called National Water Main Cleaning Company. They're in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York. We ran into them by accident. They're doing work in New London. I thought my issue, because I started looking at this before this summer, in the winter, was the culverts. I thought the culverts going under my driveway were plugged. This gentleman, Fabio, from National Water Main Cleaning Company, came in, inspected those culverts. They're clean. The pitch of the culverts is spot on. So whatever water is making its way to the culvert is making it to the other side. The problem is it's not making it to the culvert, so then it floods my parking lot and then floods Red Cross vehicles and floods KFC, unfortunately. When this first happened, I got told it was once in a 100-year storm, and I thought it was bad luck. Unfortunately, like I said, it's been 5 times now in 15 years. I want to maintain it for many reasons. One, obviously, because it looks like a disaster. There's tires in there that people have thrown, bottles, concrete cinder blocks. So I just need to take that, nips. I mean, so I'm gonna have to go in there with waders and clean the thing out just to do those kind of maintenance. But also, I have a surgery center in there now. I don't know if you guys know, plus Hartford Healthcare. And, they wrote letters to the city with regard to the old Salem Turnpike access. I was gonna ask them to write letters again. They wanted to leave because of safety, because the parking lot is flooding. And the concern is if they're doing surgery and an ambulance can't get in and out, I get it, and plus the Red Cross is a national disaster. That's where they store blood for all of southeastern Connecticut. There's no other site in southeastern Connecticut. They do drives. All the drives and blood comes back there. So unfortunately, when it's been raining and we have these storms, it's in the overnight. So when we come in at 6, 7, 8 in the morning, my parking lot's flooded out. So I'd like to, if the commission would allow me to, narrow the stream to the proper length, as you see on the site plan that it's been for many, many years. And just make sure that it flows properly and it doesn't flood my parking lot out. So you can see how wide it should be. And like I said, in some areas, you barely have a foot for that water to get through that culvert.
Dan, sure, I mean, it looks wide enough, but scale wise, what are we looking at there on this initial site plan?
For the length of it,
What the initial, is this the initial site plan or was this?
Yeah. That's okay. It's many years ago, and that stream.
yeah, this is from, I guess, when KFC went in, maybe, yeah.
So it's
So not the original,
Sure.
but
it's over 30 years
So
old.
scale wise, what does it compare to the head wall there? So it should be at least this. Scale. So,
oh, there it is. I don't know if I can read that.
But if you look at a parking space, I mean,
0 to 10, it's probably. That's a 20.
Yeah.
That's 20. The 40 scale.
Yeah, it's
So that first line is a 20 there.
But based on that and not having a scale on me,
Right.
it could have been up to 20 feet at one point.
Sure.
Yeah.
And where that drains into, Dan, from your knowledge, there's plenty of capacity. It's not being
So
held
it
back. in
goes
that.
under your driveway and then it goes under, it bangs it left and goes under 82, right?
correct.
So there's no limits there on the state's end.
No,
No.
those are all, they're all cleaned
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've worked with the state on, because I originally thought it was the state culverts. So they've been out
Right.
there numerous times,
Okay,
and I've
so they
walked
did
the
check
property,
those.
yes. And yeah, those are clean as well. And that's when we figured out when the culverts were clean.
Sure.
Really, the issue is the stream is just choked out and it's so high up with all the sediment over however many years. Where I know where to go but my parking lot.
So can you explain what the proposed plan is, how it will function, or do you want Peter to?
I don't mind doing it at all.
Okay.
So when it comes into my property, you see the orange circle up there? So we're gonna use that as the starting grade because there's a culvert there where the stream comes into my property. That'll be the starting grade. We'll shoot grades as we go along using that as a starting grade. And then where the orange is before it goes into my driveway, that would obviously be the lowest grade. And we just wanna pitch it. So there's a proper flow from the orange all the way down to the culvert to get it out. And then just widen it, maybe 15, 20 feet to where it should be. On the plan, you can see we have a few different staging areas. So what we would do is instead of taking the material out mucky and gross, we would store the material there. We would put straw bottles down on the ground. We would put fabric paper on the ground. We'd contain it. Once it was dried out, then we would remove it. To control erosion, we would use 6-inch layer of either gravel or stone before the riprap, or there's a filter fabric paper that would go down. Peter, who's on the line, is against the filter fabric paper. I was waiting to hear back on your opinion. his opinion on the fabric paper is that eventually it deteriorates over time and that would wash down. So we're open to either one, using the gravel, the 6-inch layer of gravel, crushed stone, and then putting the riprap over it, or the filter fabric paper and then the riprap over that. And then we rebuild the bank, obviously with the riprap, bring in some topsoil, and then put grass seed in, so it's aesthetically appealing to the tenants into the rest of the shopping center.
What's the
Time frame, as soon as I get an approval, because this time of year, the stream is at the lowest it's ever, this is the lowest time. So we want to do it as soon as possible. And if you see where the orange is, that's where the water comes into the property. And if you're familiar with it, that great sky is right there. And the parking lot runoff comes there as well. It's actually undermining that whole entire area. So we wanted to rebuild that bank and also put in 2 concrete blocks there to help support the ground.
You have wattles on the top of the embankment. And then what are you gonna have on the embankments themselves? Is that all riprap?
All riprap, yep. And then inside, if you see where the lines are for erosion control, we were gonna put straw wattles in the stream, put hay bales in the stream, and behind the hay bales, we were gonna put in wood to support it. And if you guys wanted,
You're talking about before the culverts?
before the culverts, well, and actually, so before the culvert, we see the oranges, but you see the line up to where it says erosion control?
Right here?
Yep, we would put it in there as well, so it's not a bunch of water, whatever is in there, we kind of do it in sections and segue it out. And if you did want silt fences as well in there, behind the straw and the straw wood, we do that as well.
Do any other commission members have questions for the applicant?
Hi, this is Chris. Not at this time, plan looks pretty straightforward.
Pete here. What is to be done with the spoils? What was the plan with that? The material that you dredge out of there? Where is that going?
There's 2 areas on the plan. It says storage area. There's the one where Dan is right now, and then there's one to the west. And we would dry it out, and then we would show you guys that we removed it and disposed of it correctly.
Okay, all right.
And we wouldn't remove it until it was completely dried out. That's why we have 2 different staging areas.
Dan, what's staff's opinion on the
We
erosion control within the stream bed?
well, quick note, where you have it, the one on the far end of the screen is technically not on your property, so we gotta move it onto your property. Like you said, the culverts are all kind of cleaned out now, so we want to get something that protects it. And how long do you think the progress will take?
I would say 7 to 10 days,
7 to 10
because
days.
between drying out and if we have nice weather, it'll go quickly. If we have rain in that period, it might take a little bit longer, but ideally it's 7 to 10 days running out of there.
Dan, what's your opinion on the silt fence?
In the stream?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the silt fence on either side of the culvert, or?
I mean, I have a concern of silt fence in the stream bed.
Yeah,
I would rather go hay bale.
as part of your standard conditions, it allows the city engineer and myself to go out and inspect and say, yeah, it doesn't really work, you should use something else when the time comes. And Brian and I have been out a number of times with Daryl, talked about it. And all of our initial points in my memo and Brian's comments online were addressed, short of moving that onto the property. And then in the top right, your tracing kind of goes off your property again there too, so you can't disturb on Burger King's property or whoever it is at that point. But I think at this point, staff is satisfied, unless the commission has something that you'd rather see.
Has the city engineer weighed in on the capacity of the culverts? Because those struck me as 2 relatively small culverts. So they may be clear, but do they actually have the capacity to handle flow?
As of right now, I think that he's fine with it, cleaning it out, that should handle it, to pass it along to the state's culverts downstream there.
You made a statement that the water wasn't even reaching the culverts. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so when we have a heavy storm, because there's so much growth. Yeah,
Back a few.
yeah, well, you can kind of see it there. You see just before the culvert how it's choked out there?
Yeah.
Actually, if you do a different photo, I'll show you exactly better. There you go, perfect. So that's going from east to west. So what's happening is when we get heavy downpours, it doesn't have a chance to make it to the culvert. It just dumps onto my property. I mean, it's just so overgrown. And if you look down in, I mean, there's not much. I mean, the sediment is right there.
So let me paraphrase,
Mhm.
make sure that your explanation is clear.
Mhm.
What you're saying is the water is ponding further upstream and running into your driveway from that ponding as opposed to any ponding down by the culverts.
So I think what Doug's saying is it ponds further back and floods here, correct?
No, sorry, is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying.
No, in that general vicinity by that culvert there, that's where it comes across. So I do have videos from storms where you can see the water go from east to northwest. So it goes from that culvert just before that culvert, which is the southeast corner, and then it goes directly towards the KFC building.
So
Yep.
from here this way.
Yep,
Speaking over.
yep. So the flooding and the
vans were up here.
vans
No,
are now
Vans are typically down.
correct, and they're no longer there now for the
Okay.
simple reason that the Red Cross, and I had to work out a deal to move the van.
So is the grading of the entrance to the culverts actually sufficient? And is it being addressed by, and if not, is that being addressed by this plan?
I think as it stands right now, the amount of sediment that's in this area, it's super shallow. So it's kind of almost like a sandbar.
Okay.
That's the
all
best way
around
to
it.
put it.
Yeah.
That's the correct terminology. It's a sandbar there.
The applicant is proposing to dredge the entire channel or just the
No.
head of the channel here, or the foot of the channel, rather?
Nope, where the northeast, where the circle is, where it comes in, because that's where the sediment enters my property. So that's where it's washing out, and there's a big area there. And then as you head down to where we just saw, I would say, yep, I'm right about there, yep. From there forward that's the problematic area. And then just on the other side. So if you go down, like in between that orange and where Dan just stopped, it's the width is there, the depth is there, everything's there. Like I don't have to do anything in that middle section there.
So from where it's
But roughly
So,
there.
so let's make the record a little bit clearer.
Mhm.
Any dredging operations in the stream bed itself
Mhm.
are really restricted to roughly 60 feet in front of the culvert entrance at the foot of the channel. And it looks like maybe 20 feet at the head of the channel. Is that correct?
So there's 3 spots where the orange circle is roughly 20 feet. Yes, is that what you're talking, 20 feet?
Yeah.
Yep. And then if you go down and count the parking spaces, roughly where Dan's, right where Dan's at,
Yeah.
so whatever that distance is.
Yeah,
count
that may
the-
be closer to
Closer to
80.
100 feet.
Yeah,
I can count this parking spaces.
yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right.
You
It's
want me to count
closer to 100. I just want that to be very clear in the record. I would have more concerns with the plan if the idea was that you were going to stretch out the entire stream bed, because that, despite the fact that it's annoying with flooding, is a very healthy and functioning wetland. So we don't want to just lightly take a position that sure we can take it all out and replace it with riprap.
I've got no problem with that at all. Within that other area though, does the commission have any issues with me having someone go in there with waders and pulling out tires? And there's a big, huge concrete bowl that's probably 50 years old. I mean, we're obviously gonna have to go in there, either physically go in there or a machine. I mean, it's literally, I have no idea how it got in there, concrete pipe.
I would say, non-organics and even to the extent of invasives, that might be in there as well.
Yeah, so I can pull out nips, I can pull out I mean, I don't need to dredge that area, I just wanna
Clean it.
yeah, whatever you want to pull out, you get, yeah. Unfortunately, nips are a problem at that shopping center.
All over, everywhere, unfortunately, but yes.
Because KFC is open late night, so
Go right over.
yes.
So do any commissioners have any further questions of the applicant?
It's Pete again. Is there any evidence of beaver activity downstream? Because it appeared as though there was a beaver attempting to block the culvert that goes underneath the state highway in there. Do you know anything about that at all? Right there. It was right in that area. There was a giant pile of beaver dam in there.
As long as I recognize.
Questions for the property owner? Are you aware of anything anything like that? Any vermin activity down in there?
So I recognize the property owner to answer the question.
You're correct, back in September, October of 2023. Late, it was definitely last year, and the state cleaned up the culvert and dealt with the issue.
So they physically trapped and removed the beaver, or is it still in that?
They trapped and removed the beaver.
Okay, thank you.
And the gentleman they hired, Brendan, got permission from the property owner across the street to put up cameras. So he had remote cameras, which is pretty cool. And he monitored it for months until the cameras were stolen.
Great.
I have it on video of someone. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we need to entertain a motion as to whether this is a significant event that requires a public hearing.
I move this is not a significant event, seeing as the original plan had it drawn to, and maintenance is inspected by staff.
Pete, second.
There's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Chris, aye.
Pete, aye.
Brandon, I.
Doug, aye, unanimous. So staff has a memo.
I
on the
do.
record.
I would just ask that comments in the normal bullet points be included in the motion. Reason to state for the record is the proposed DNS controls are sufficient to protect the wetlands, and all our comments have been addressed at this point.
And before I was moved, would you have the comments to talk about the delineations? Yeah. Okay. All right, I move to approve IWWCC 24-09 to include staff's comments, regular inspections as stated, and delineations and conversations spoke up here.
Chris, second.
There's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Chris, aye.
Pete, aye.
Brandon, I.
Doug, aye, unanimous. IWWCC 24-09 passes with conditions as laid forth with the motion. Is there any new business?
We have one new application, 2410. It's 36 Huntington Avenue. It's for a single family home in the upland.
If I hear a motion to table that to the next meeting,
So moved.
Pete, second.
motion on the table, all in favor,
Chris, I.
Pete, aye.
Brandon, I.
Doug, aye, unanimous. Any other business? Any violation? Okay, so no updates. No updates. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Chris, Chris, second.
Motion on the table. All in favor?
Chris, I.
Pete, aye.
Brandon, I.
Doug, aye. This meeting is adjourned.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.